All right, y'all, welcome back to Keepin It Comic. I'm GoofyRhexxi. We're going to be doing our episode 1 review here for Echo. We're going to be talking spoilers, so if you don't want to hear spoilers, then, just beware. But we're going to be going into a couple of things here. I do feel like overall, the first episode kind of failed Echo. I don't give it a terrible rating, but I feel like they kind of failed Echo. We're going to get into it in a little bit here, but let's talk about some of the things that I liked in the episode. And the very first thing for me was, I actually like the recap. I'm seeing some messages right now out there in the interwebs talking about how they don't like that they spent so much time doing the recap, right? Like going over how we got to this point, who kind of Echo is, when she was first introduced, what she faced in Hawkeye. To those who are saying that, I just don't understand what you want, because that's been the gripe of most people, where they don't have enough of a backstory on a character and you have to do too much homework. Well, they kind of made it easy for you not to do homework. Now, granted, obviously, if you want to go watch the full Hawkeye series, you're going to get more context, but they gave you enough information for you to understand why we're at this point and pretty much basically kind of give you a premise as to what the rest of the series is going to be about. I don't know what you desire if you didn't like that. So I personally think that was a good move by them, by showing that information in the very beginning, giving me some context. Kind of was a reminder to me, although I recently watched the Hawkeye series again, it was kind of a reminder to me as to some of the stuff that was going on there. Now, we got to talk about this Daredevil fight scene, man, because this was the thing that was buzzing. It was buzzing, and not in a good way, over the past week and a half or so. I'm going to say this. It looks better in HD. It wasn't good in the leaked footage, but it looks a little bit better in HD. They fine-tuned it a little bit. Of course, you can still kind of nitpick and say like, oh yeah, that kick looked kind of weird, or yeah, that punch did not land at all. Okay, that drop didn't land. But at the same time, I think maybe just expecting it to be what it was, I was a little bit more surprised that it didn't look as bad. It's just kind of where I was at. It was just good though to see Daredevil on screen again. Now, of course, we know that they mentioned yesterday that Daredevil is now canon to the MCU. I got a question though, whether or not that's actually canon to 616, right? That I'm not entirely sure about, because the suit looked different than in what we saw in She-Hulk. Now you could say, okay, well, he's just advanced his suit over time. But I do think that the MCU makes very specific choices on what they do in terms of their visuals for a specific reason. So I wouldn't be surprised if Daredevil and the other Netflix shows that they mentioned are now canon, are actually canon only to the MCU, but not necessarily canon to the 616. They could be in a separate universe. I'm not saying that they are, but I'm just saying that there is a possibility that that might be the case. But with that being said, I feel like specifically within that Daredevil fight scene, I feel like they kind of failed Echo, if you ask me. I think overall, the entire episode kind of failed Echo. I feel like they really needed to lean into Echo as a character and what makes her great, right? And from what I know about in the comics, and just in case you're not familiar with Echo from the comics, so she's a character, she was born deaf, but she has like this amazing ability to be able to mimic things. And even as like a young child, she was deaf, but they didn't know that. They didn't diagnose that in the very beginning because she was so good at being able to read lips that it was hard for them to even notice that she had this disability. And one of the things about Echo is that she's able to mimic the style of anybody that she fights, right? So because she has this visual ability just to be able to see things and just be able to mimic it exactly. She just has like a keen eye to be able to do that. Like one of the most like fun things about Echo that I remember in the comics, in the Daredevil comic, was when she went up against Daredevil the first time, or second time, I think, she was able to study the fighting style of Bullseye and study the fighting style of Daredevil, and then she was able to then mimic that when she went up against Daredevil and was easily able to counter him, almost killed him. Like Daredevil was on his toes. Like that entire fight in the comics was just so much fun to watch. And they didn't really show her even being able to do some of that in this series so far. And I'm asking myself the question, why? Maybe they do it in the following ensuing episodes, but in this particular episode, I'm like, why not start off with showing us like the fact that she's able to do that? If she was in that fight with Daredevil, she was like, oh, he's doing this and he's doing that, I can counter it this way. I'm like, it didn't really show that, and I was just a little bit disappointed. And of course, you could probably chalk it up to her being it's the first battle, first fight. She's nervous, everything like that. But I just feel like she was already doing this in other battles prior to, I would have thought, to her getting to that point. I just don't, I feel like, that would have been a really nice touch for them to show there. So I was a little disappointed. I felt like they kind of failed her in that aspect because they didn't really show why Echo could be cool or why you should really be interested in this character. I feel like it just kind of felt a little blah to me. So I'm hoping that they touch on that a little bit. It was nice though to see her cultural background. That obviously we're going to be exploring a little bit further on into the series. So I'm looking forward to seeing that there. Kind of reminded me of Kahuri, of course. Obviously, you kind of made that little bit of connection there, but because of just the colors and all that stuff. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with Echo and her background. Seeing Kingpin again was quite damn amazing. I mean, let's keep it real. Like, seeing Vincent in that role was pretty damn dope. Seeing the respect that the cops gave him when he was walking through to come, save Maya was also dope as well. I just think it's really good to see this character come in. They've obviously set the stage for what is going to be, this is a mature content, right? There's a little bit more blood that's going to be involved, and there's going to be more graphic fights. I mean, seeing her crack homeboy's neck was as visually as sexy as you could probably get initially, right? It just gives me joy, I guess, to see what they're probably going to do here in the future. Now, I do think that the rest of the episode was kind of meh. Apart from when Kingpin was there, that Daredevil fight scene, the rest of the episode didn't really, it lacked proper pacing, and it kind of jumped around a little bit too much in two different scenes. Like, me and my wife were watching it, we were just like, huh? Like, every time they clipped to a different scene, she was like, huh? She was like, and she was like, who is this character? Or why is this character important? They haven't really given us any context on this. Like, her cousin, like, this is weird. So it's just, I felt like because they kind of failed Echo as showing who she could be and why she's important or why you should care, I feel like this episode kind of ended up landing in the 5 out of 10 range for me. But we'll continue to look at the other episodes here. We'll see how they go. We'll probably do we'll review one episode each day. I'm probably going to binge and watch probably and finish it up in the next day or two. But we'll do one episode every single day. Let me know what your thoughts are though on this show so far, on the first episode. Do you feel like they definitely kind of failed there from that perspective? I would definitely love to know what your opinion on this is, or whatever. You get my point. All right, guys, appreciate you watching. Leave it in the comments down below. Like I said, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Leave a like on this video here so that they can help on the YouTube algorithm. And until next time, guys, and as always, thanks so much for kicking it. We keep it a comic.